Colleague and inspiration. Matt Matt! Woo! My man. Stage is yours. It's good. Body up, Matt.
Wow. Let's go. Give it up for our amazing host. All right. How are we doing, TechChill? Good to be back. Before I start, I want to acknowledge one thing. I like the programming TechChill. You have Kayan, who's proving it's never too early, and then me proving it's never too late, back to back, right? I guess the message is, start whenever you want. Anything is possible at any age. But it's good to be back. And I'm going to tell you a fun story now about how I was an entrepreneur, built and sold a company, and then I became an Olympian, and how now I'm flipping those lessons back, and how I found becoming an Olympian has taught me to be a better entrepreneur. But first, 2018, I was actually here for 2019 and 2020 at TechChill. I did, as many of you did. Give me a wave if you're a founder. Who's the founders in the room? Holla, yep, looking tired. Yeah, good for you, keep hustling, it'll happen, don't worry. I founded my startup. Yes, I did the cliche things, getting the old, unicorn masks on. I founded my business. Now, I followed the typical cookie cutter, how do you build a business format, right? I build a team, I get some advisors, I go through an accelerator, I find a co-founder, we get t-shirts with the company logo on it. It's all part of the process, all from Printful, by the way. Shout out to some Printful people here. Thank you for that. I do the typical things that you do. I follow the cookie cutter process of entrepreneurship. We attend some events, including TechChill, South by Southwest, of course, right? We get advisors, we get investors. I grow my team, right, as part of the process, and I was very grateful for that journey. Now, something very fortunate happened to me 2 years later. Are you ready to cheer? 1, 2, 3. I sold my company! We made it, people. We've sold the business. We've achieved the entrepreneur's dream. Build and sell a company. Now, what do you do when you sell your company, right? What do you think you do when you sell a company? What's your name? Yes. Sorry? Cross. What do you think you do when you sell your company? What does an entrepreneur do? What's the cliche thing you do?
I don't know. I don't want to sell my company.
Oh, you don't want to sell your company? I like that. Good. Bootstrap it to the win. I like that. Okay, brilliant. Well, you know what you do? You sell your company, you grow a man bun. Right? That's what you do. You grow a man bun, you get some beads around your neck, you go and take some plant medicine in South America, right? You go find yourself, right? I went surfing, learned to surf, and I lived in a startup-friendly location, Lisbon, Portugal, right? Nomaded on the beach. The problem with that is 6 months becomes a year and a half, becomes 2 years. And at this point now, I'm 32 years old, not 62 years old. And I'm living like a 62-year-old at this point. This is, 2022, right? So, 2022 November comes around, and I decide to get back to what I was doing beforehand. I need to come back to the entrepreneur that is Matt. Now, I've learned the lessons. I feel like I'm refreshed, revitalized. I'm ready to go. So, 2022, I moved to Norway. Oh, the flag is meant to show. Anyway, I moved to Oslo, Norway. Now, we're in the Baltics, so same, right? What is the Baltics, my friend over there, what are the Baltics characterized with when it comes to like November, December? Have a guess. Depression. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully not too much of it. Snowed in cars. We can all relate, right? This is what is characterized with the payments. Who's been to Slush? The event is named after the season. Yep, you have. You know it well, right? Now, I moved to Norway, and I'm thinking to myself as an athletic person, 32 years old at the time, not 14, I wish. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I maintain an athletic credential? How do I run, swim, cycle when it's far too cold outside, too dangerous, etc.? What do you do in Norway? You cross-country ski. Right? That's what they do. That's what they get outside. I know you do that here as well. There's many of you here who might have tried it, but I'm in the home of it. So, November 2022, I decide to myself, I'm going to learn to cross-country ski, right? I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life next. Am I going to build a business, and what's next for me? So I decide to get a ski lesson, a cross-country ski lesson. Now, cross-country skiing is a Nordic-dominated sport. So have a guess where my cross-country ski coach was from. You, have a guess. What country was my cross-country ski coach from? Norway? No. What about you? Denmark? No. No, it's Mexico, obviously. This is Alan Daniel Corona, Mexico's national ski champion, living in Norway, married to a Norwegian, much like me. So I get a lesson with Mexico. And you know what? I think to myself, this is a fun lesson. He's a foreigner living here. He's representing a country. He takes me out with some other Mexicans, Victor here, and a BHAG is born. Now, the entrepreneurial mind in me starts to kick in. Hold on a minute. You can't be what you can't see, Sandra, can you? Good to see you, welcome. From 27 names. You can't be what you can't see. So I think to myself, could I just maybe become South Africa's cross-country skier? But hold on a minute. When's the next Olympics? This is beginning of 2023 now. Well, the next Olympics is the Milano Cortina 2026 Olympics. We're 3 years away. So I start doing some research. How do you qualify? When do you qualify? And I know what you're all thinking. Yeah, that's right. You know what I know, you can't believe Jamaica has a bobsled team. Come on, you saw the movie, right? It's very cool runnings. It's very sort of kind of fun story. For those of you who don't know, this is the story of the Jamaican bobsled team that went to the '88 Calgary Olympics. You know, they were all sprinters, and they tried to be the first team ever. They made it. Big movie came out. It was the same time in the same Olympics of Eddie the Eagle, big movie that big came out. So I think to myself, okay, listen, I've got 3 years left. Obviously, I'm trying to distract myself and procrastinate from what I really should be doing. So I'm going to attempt to qualify for the Olympics in 3 years in a sport that I've just tried for the first time. Not with a Norwegian coach, but with a Mexican coach. Right? Just adding this to the picture of the thing. Now, my entrepreneurial mind kicks in, so I start to think to myself, you know, what separates you from any single goal, any single product launch, any single business, is a series of minutes and moments, key minutes and moments. And I had a hard launch date, okay? Because I had a specific date on a specific day that I had to get a specific time in a specific race. And that was Trondheim 2025 World Championships, which were exactly a year ago, basically, almost to the day. So I had 2 years, from early 2023, to get good enough to qualify for the Olympics, right? I already had a co-founder, Mr. Mexico, right? Entrepreneurs, what do we need to do? We need to growth hack this, okay? So I begun this journey of how to growth hack this. Now, how I approached this and how I kind of approached my startup as well was I identified how many days we had to a launch, for example. We'll call this our launch date. And I reverse engineered. I imagined what I would need to be, who I would need to become on the day of the race. 2 years later, I had 700 days to get there, right? So I have now my working framework. So how do I time box and allocate my time around this? The reality is I only had 230 skiable days. So I'm already losing time the more I look into this process. So we need to be really targeted. We need to be very smart about how we use our time, Sandra, how we focus on what we do. So that's where I developed something called the key minutes and the key moments framework. So in any growth journey, you know, growth is not linear. Product development is not linear, right? You have growth phases, and then you plateau for a period, and you make a breakthrough. So I knew, by reverse engineering, the time I needed to get on the day, in the race, at the World Championships, who I needed to become, and then we worked out, well, what are the growth moments in this? What are the leapfrog development things I needed to focus on? Instead of doing a normal step-by-step A to Z development journey, I started on, okay, I need to be fast in downhills. So what do? I walk up a hill, I go down. I walk up a little bit higher, I go down. We just focused on these little breakthrough moments, which leapfrogged my growth, because I didn't have 10,000 hours, that's the minutes, to do this, that it takes to become an expert. We needed to focus on how are we going to engineer and catalyze my growth over this time frame. Right? And what that looked like was identifying the key things I should focus on a weekly and monthly basis, and engineering all the minutes, which is the time spent on skis, to make those things happen in record time, right? We needed to work hard at working smart, not just working hard. And that was the big difference here. So, how did that look? Let's have a look. So, here we are. It's my first ever race, looking fresh-faced and excited. Borrowed skis, borrowed clothes. This is the Holmenkollen Marchen. It's like a 36-kilometer race. So this is how it started. This is how it almost finished, how it's going. I'm running a ski race. Why am I running a ski race? Oh yeah, I broke my ski 2 kilometers from the finish. But we have to finish. So this is me finishing the race. All the fans waiting for me to finish, right? At least I finished. Weirdly, I didn't get disqualified. They let me finish the race. So, but that was it. So that was how we started, right? So clearly we needed to iterate, right? We needed to beta test a little bit more. So we did some more testing. You know, I started to develop a bit further. And this is my next race. So this is a very famous race in Norway. You can see the people who finished first. Okay, where did I finish now? Let's just scroll down a little bit. Just scroll a little bit more. No, come on. Okay, we're still scrolling. Just keep. Okay, no, okay, we're still scrolling. Maybe I should have sped this up a little bit. Wait, no, okay, I think we're almost, and there we go. Yeah, here we go. Second last. Cool. There we go. Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers. We clearly needed to pivot, right? So this is where I decided, okay, we need to pivot. What's wrong? We need to form an advisory board. What would my startup entrepreneur self do? We needed to create guardrails to make this a success. So we reached out for mentors. So one of those, of course, was, this name might mean nothing, but Olav Alexander Boo, probably the world's most famous sports scientist, just as luck would have it, lives in Bergen, Norway, right? So I hit him up. I go there, we do some testing, VO2 max this, we understand what is the engine I need to create in the time that I had to make it, right? I hire a Norwegian coach. Sorry, Alan, we changed the management. Alan's out, becomes my training partner. I hire this guy, former Norway 20th athlete in the Norway Championships. We developed some more people around us. I actually signed with a professional team, Team Akadali. I start training with people who are better than me. The environment I created around me was going to set me up for success. But still, it looked like this. Oh, just failed standing. Too much power. Boof. You know, everything was telling me to stop, to quit. We were hitting roadblocks. We were hitting bugs in every aspect of things. This is quite a fun bug. Boof. Just learning how to turn fast corners. Every indication was telling me I'm not going to make it, right? Now, the funny thing we like to glorify in the startup world about failure is, you know, fail forward, fail fast, and that is all prevalent and very true. But one thing I will say about failure is, failure isn't about failing and finding ways not to do it. Failure is practicing getting up. That's what it was for me. Failing is practicing getting up, time and time. Forget about the fail. Yeah, we found a way to not do it. Yes, but it's how do you get out of that? How do you get up from that? What's the next step? So the failure, great. Now forget about that. How are we going to rise from this, right? So failure became very important to me in this example because, like I told you, in my storyline, started at the beginning of 2023, I had 2 years, 700 days, 230 skiable days to make it in one race, one shot, proper 8 mile, one opportunity, M&M, eat your heart out, right? This is my one race, my one opportunity. This is a screenshot and a screen recording from Eurosports. So at this point, I'm actually leading the race. There's still athletes better than me to start. So I'm leading the race by 26 seconds at this point, right? You can see, my Saudi Arabian friend, Rakan Alireza, is currently, I'm about to take his first place spot on the 2K loop in the race at the World Championships. And this happens. Okay, all in control. Whoop! Ski catches the ground, roll, bang. My pole flies off. Oh, shit. In skiing, you need your poles, right? So I get up, now I look at this, and I realize my pole is completely broken, and I carry on, right? Broken pole, right? Now, the funny thing about that practicing of getting up was when it happened in the time that mattered, that fall, that failure, whatever you want to call it, I remember getting up, rolling, and if the sound played, you actually hear me go, ah! Because I'm like, fuck. And I stand up, and my right pole goes here where it should, at 155 centimeters, and the other one goes here, because I've lost about 20 centimeters, right? And I look like this, and what went through my mind at that point was, this was never meant to be hard. Never meant to be easy, was it? That's what went through my mind at that moment, because I'd worked a lot on my mindset, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute. But I made it! This is us celebrating when we found we qualified. That's me in the Saudi Arabian. I made it. I qualified for the Olympics in the race I needed to qualify in. I actually qualified by a 20% margin in time, despite losing 50 seconds in the race. There's me and the Trinidad and Tobago, the Mexicans, the whole team, we qualified together. Fast forward 1 year, I was the flag bearer at the opening ceremony, this Olympics 6 weeks ago. Yeah, you can cheer for that. You can cheer for that. There's me with my wax man, small team. Maybe some of you saw the opening ceremony, incredible experience. And, to sort of close the story there, this is me at the start line of the 2026 Winter Olympics. This was on the 13th of February, the Friday the 13th. This is me finishing the race. I actually finished the race backwards, by the way. I basically went over the line. I thought, okay, I just spun around and went like this, over the line, right? Now, the fun thing is, I've gone on this cool journey, 3 years, set a record, fastest time anyone's ever qualified in a sport that they've never tried before. I started at 32 years old. I'm almost 36 now. I have a child. I have a mortgage. I have things that would ultimately make me not do something like this. But the most interesting thing from this journey is what becoming an Olympian taught me about becoming a better entrepreneur. And that's why I wanted to share some lessons with you right now. So, as an entrepreneur, we hustle, there's a lot of hustle culture. Longevity is starting to become part of the conversation, how we rest, recover, reset. But as an Olympian, as an elite athlete, I realized over the last 3 years that environment is everything. You need to engineer your environment to make you success, as opposed to try to succeed. So what that means practically as an entrepreneur, where are you sitting? Who are you spending time with? Who are the people you spend the most time with? Who are you looking up to? Who are you working with on a daily basis? Environment engineers outcome. As an athlete, you control everything. That you can control. Because your job as an athlete is to get to the start line. Your job is to arrive happy, healthy, and in the best shape of your life, ready to race the best race of your life. That's all you can control, right? As an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. If you control your environment, where you live, who you meet, who invests in your businesses, who you hire, all these different elements contribute to your success over time, as opposed to you just focusing on how to succeed, when to succeed, why to succeed, right? Create an environment around you that will help you succeed. That's really important. That was everything to how I succeeded. I moved to where the ski slopes were, out of the city, to reduce the barrier to actually do the thing I needed to do. Because even a 20-minute commute was a barrier that would hinder me over time, right? In terms of diet and what I consumed and all these types of stuff, it was all engineered, my environment, to make me an elite athlete. Because that's what will save you on the days when you're not motivated. Because trust me, motivation is not a constant. You need to build systems that beat motivation. And those systems are in accountability, social accountability. I had a training partner, the Mexican, Alan. Remember him? He was my training partner. So we would get each other out when we didn't want to get out, when it was extra cold, when it was we were extra tired, right? You need to create systems, and those systems are often external. It's when you're meeting people. You don't want to not meet the person because you've agreed to meet the person, for example. You set up races at events which favor you, so you end up getting better points and things like that. Create a system around your motivation, because nothing about motivation is constant. And I'll tell you some stories in a minute about how that really played its role in my journey. One thing I realized is going forward now as an entrepreneur, I'm going to work like I train. Now, we work hard as entrepreneurs 7 days a week if we need to, right? But as an athlete, I would never do 7 days of intense training back to back. That's just counterintuitive, right? That works against you, not works for you. There are times when you need to, of course, work and you're firefighting for days, but going forward now, I never work in more than 2-3 day sprints. Like an elite athlete, I would never do intensity days back to back, more than 2-3 days, typically 2, really. You still work that 3rd or 4th day, but have a lighter load day, or do other types of work that requires a different element to what takes from you, be it physical, be it mental, right? That's really important. So I'm going to think about the way I train, looking at my week, the blocks, when I'm working and why I'm working. When is the best time to train? As an athlete, you think to yourself, am I a morning, an evening, a midday person? How can I engineer my training blocks around my natural energy? How many of you thought about that as an entrepreneur, right? You need to make the system work for you. Running your own race. So at the beginning of this, I hire a Mexican coach, and we start to copy what the Norwegians did. Guess what? No matter how hard I tried to train like the Norwegians, I never raced like the Norwegians. You need to run your own race. You need to find a training program that is the Matt C. Smith special, that is the Sandra special, that is the whoever else is special, right? You need to have a training program that considers your life demands, your fatigues, your different elements, your training hours, things that favor you. This is what's really important. As an entrepreneur going forward, now, this is something, I'm going to not just follow the cookie cutter way I'm meant to go. You just mentioned you're going to bootstrap it, right? Or not bootstrap it. You're not going to sell the company. I love that. We're kind of pushed in this industry due to VC funding, which I used to be a VC, to scale, to grow, to raise capital, etc., right? Run your own race. Be brave and bold enough to be contrarian. Go against the grain, but that's your grain. That's your narrative. That's your path. Now, the fun thing is, the big lesson I had was, guess what? Shocker. I was never going to win a gold medal, right? I started the sport at 32 years old. You can't just cheat code and fast forward to 25 years of missed skiing, right? I came 108th on the day in the race, right? I came 4th last, but I beat the Saudi Arabian and the Lebanese and the Israeli, actually. Anyway, so I beat a couple of my friends and things like that, but the goal was never to get a gold medal. What I realized was so much of everyone else is focused on winning a gold medal that they're forgetting the other areas you can win a gold medal in. So I won a gold medal by building a personal brand in the process, by building in public. I would become one of the most followed cross-country skiers. I had the fastest growing social media channels. That brought in opportunities that didn't get given to others. I developed the biggest sponsorship deal with Corona Zero, the main sponsor. Maybe some of you saw me in that jacket, right? I was one of 8 athletes chosen from the Olympics, of 2,900 athletes, to go on this big global campaign with Corona, very well paid, cool opportunities. That came to me because of all the things I did off the course, not just on it. So I identified the areas I could win gold medals as a role model, as an educator, as an entertainer around the sport, right? I went viral during the games as well. I used these things as tools. So whilst I didn't come home with a gold medal, I definitely won a gold medal in other areas, metaphorically speaking, right? I signed with a professional team, the first athlete to do that from my nation at my level. Now, this was the big thing. There's only 3 more lessons after this. If you look at my training program, the first year, I was all in, all on it, and I really was breaking down after a year in this. I had plateaued in my journey. And if you'd looked at my training programs, as athletes and entrepreneurs, we tend to focus on the milestones, the targets, the heart rate zones, all the different things that contribute to us actually succeeding, right? But the reality is, I was not feeling any joy or happiness. And someone very astutely said to me, Matt, where's the joy in your training program? So I started to plan joy into the process, training sessions that I enjoyed. It didn't take away from the hard things I needed to do, but it contributed to an all-round feeling that made me a success in the long term. It was sustainable. And sustainable entrepreneurship is something that needs to become prevalent and needs to become something we speak a bit more openly about as well. Build in public. I built in public from day one. I shared the story. Your instinct when you're trying to do something big and new that you haven't done, that's unproven, is to keep it to yourself. That is a trap. Because the less people you tell, the less people ask you how it's going and maybe help you in moments that you need help in. There was a moment where I wanted to give up, a year and a half in. I said to Alan, you go for 2026. I'll go for 2030. Plan B already. He said, Matt, now is the only time to do this. You don't know what your life, your finances, your health will be next year, next week. Now is the only time. You needed social accountability around you to make this a success. The more people I told, even if they didn't want to hear about it, the more people asked me how it was going at times when I needed to have some support. Okay, Matt, it's not going so well. Why don't we go train together? I can help you along that journey, right? And you are more than your results. This is a message that I've shared. I came almost always last in these races, right? But I didn't get deterred from that because I was doing other areas to win gold medals. This is that campaign I was signed in. 8 athletes, all won gold medals, apart from me. First, 108th. But I'm in the same league as these guys. And identity drives behavior. I identified myself as a skier. I'm not trying to qualify, I am qualifying. When I qualify. Language is everything. Belief is integral to this, right? I believed that I could make it. Some days I didn't, but that's where my support network, my community, my building in public made it real that I could do it. I relied on them in moments I really needed as well. This is me, Alan, making it. You can cheer for Alan. That's us finishing, cross line together, Mexico. And to finish, which I think it's a nice lesson that I realize is resonating with people. If you all met me at TechChill 3-4 years ago, nothing about my past would predict my present. Like you would never go, yeah, now you're going to go become an Olympian in 3 years, right? So wherever you are today, it's a starting line. I'll finish it at that. Thank you for joining. Enjoy the rest of TechChill. Come chat to me. I'm hanging around here. Thanks for listening. Give a scan, give a follow. New cool things coming. Thank you.